A lot of Led Zeppelin fans want to know, did you have any old unreleased numbers left over?
We didn't have any sort of golden nuggets left, so to speak. Everything that was left over since In Through the Outdoor, and after we'd lost John, that was completed. In other words, with vocals, etc. And maybe they needed a remix or whatever, but they came out on Coda, and that was in light of the fact that there have been so many bootlegs out. Countless more now, as we all know, but at that time, so many bootlegs out of live performances, and we thought, well, it would be, a good idea just to put those things out then. So, in fact, they went out on Coda as opposed to coming out on this. So, in fact, there wasn't any studio material left. So, as these things had sort of surfaced and been played apparently on radio stations over there, we thought we'd include them. We had Travelling Riverside Blues, which had been recorded for the BBC many years back, 69, 70, and it actually sort of surfaced. It surfaced during the last tour that I did. As I was doing sort of radio interviews, people were saying, and what about this? And they'd play it, and they'd say, was it an outtake from the second album? There's a big theory that that's what it was. So, as it was around, there was a lot of interest. We thought we'd put that on. And then, of course, there's the White Summer, which again was done on a live broadcast with, we did a whole set at that point, but we just included that one.
I've been told over and over again that Elvis Presley's Baby Let's Play House got you into rock and roll. Is that true?
I was really seduced by rock and roll at an early age, that's for sure. But that was a record where I listened to it and I thought, wait a minute, there's just an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, a bass and a voice, and it just sounds, just sounded so dynamic that, that's the point when I started to try and get this instrument that I had at home into some sort of shape. We had a guitar laying around the house. It had been given to us by somebody, and I don't even know who it was who gave it to the family. It's been sitting around for years, and of course there wasn't anybody who could really sort of play in those days. I just fortunately happened to find someone at school who knew a few chords, and once I got the thing in tune and learnt a few chords, and I went on from there.
How long did Led Zeppelin I take you to record?
The first album took about 30, 36 hours or something like that. In actual hours. Obviously it wasn't, go in the studio and work for 36 hours. It was over a period. But when it was all added up, it was that amount of time. I knew by the studio bill. But we had actually played these numbers live, because there were a few dates to fulfil from the Yardbirds, and we went over and fulfilled those, and went in and recorded, and then of course we changed the name.
What was the first Zeppelin tour of the United States like?
We went over to the States to support Vanilla Fudge on a tour, and that's when things started happening over there. Well, actually, it was great, receptions to what we were doing there, because obviously I've been in the Yardbirds, and I guess people were really curious to see what was going to be coming, and it was well received. But it was when we actually went to San Francisco that it really took off, because we were supporting Country Joe and the Fish, and I think Taj Mahal was on as well, and I mean, it was just like dynamite.
You were the producer of the Zeppelin album, so as producer, what studio techniques did you specifically come up with?
Backwards echo was one that I invented at the time, and I know the engineer said it couldn't be done. Well, I knew it could be done because I'd actually suggested it before on a Yardbirds track. And I said, why don't you try this idea, and it was backwards echo, reversing the tape, recording the echo, and then putting it round on the right way again so that the echo would precede the signal. The engineer, Glyn Johns, at the time, for the first album, he's the engineer for the first album, he said, this is impossible, won't work, it's impossible. I said, will you do what I'm telling you to do, just do it. And of course when we put the tape round the right way again and played it back, he was grudgingly moving the fader up, and you could hear this fantastic sound. It was only really employed on that album, on the end of You Shook Me.
Looking back on it now, What is the most satisfying thing about Led Zeppelin to you?
The most satisfying, it's the most rewarding part of it, as for me talking about it now, it's the fact of having, been part of music like that, which has stood up to the test of time. I think every musician hopes that their music will hold up, and let alone having been part of a fabulous band as well, and to the bargain, it's wonderful.